So this was my first gaming convention, my first IRL stream, and this is the first vlog on the channel. And I'm going to try to hit these types of gaming expos and gaming tournaments 3 or 4 times a year, and give people who weren't able to go a chance to see what going to events like PAX is like. PAX West is a 4-day gaming and tabletop expo, showcasing a lot of upcoming games with a lot of cosplay, demos, tournaments, and kind of the closest thing we have to E3 in 2024. It seemed like most of the major studios were here, with one of the biggest booths being the Pokemon booth, where they were mostly playing the Pokemon card game. I was surprised by how many people were there playing, but it was cool to see, as well as a lot of little stands selling different gaming themed stuff. From selling old N64 games to stuffed toys. My roommate who came with me almost bought one of these leather backpacks for like $350 because he forgot to bring a backpack. By the way, always bring a backpack. But Atari came in clutch and gave him a small backpack for free. There was quite a bit of swag you could get, but nothing really crazy. And I found myself choosing to keep my hands free rather than picking up all the extra goodies.
Welcome to the goodie room.
Larian Studios, the developers of Game of the Year Baldur's Gate 3, were there for the 2nd year in a row, and they had cosplayers taking pictures with fans, as well as a little shop where you could buy shirts or Larian-themed D&D dice. It was definitely one of the best booths at the show. Probably the biggest booth at the whole show was Path of Exile 2. For those who don't know, it's an upcoming free-to-play Diablo-style game, but with a much more satisfying end game. And while the game looked incredible and the controls were really responsive, the craziest part to me was that each class had a skill tree with like 1,500 different options. Yes, 1,500 different skills available for each class. Each demo had a half-hour timer, and my roommate played it twice over the course of the 4-day show, and the line for that game was no joke. So if he's going to stand in line twice just to play a half-hour demo, that tells me it's going to be pretty good. Path of Exile 2 launches on November 15th of this year, so keep updated on that one. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was there, which I didn't get a chance to play, but my roommate did, and just like with Path of Exile 2, he ended up playing it twice, and he said it looked good and felt amazing. And they also hired some medieval cosplayers that were running around, which was interesting, especially when they were walking. You got the sense of how shitty it must have been to fight in that kind of armor. Undisputed, the only boxing game around anymore, and in my opinion, the most realistic boxing game of all time, was there. Now, this game I bought like a week after it launched into early access, but I dropped it because it didn't include my favorite boxer, Mike Tyson, and at the time it was pretty buggy. But it's about to go gold and launch with the 1.0 version in October, and I got a chance to play it, and it felt a lot better than the last time. The Undisputed community was super vocal during my streams, asking all kinds of questions, and it was cool to kind of play journalist for a minute and try to get them some answers to their questions. Also, they had 2-time middleweight world champion Showtime Sean Porter there on day 2, and I got a chance to chat with him for a minute off camera, and he was super cool, really nice, and was asking me questions about my IRL stream setup. Good guy for sure. They also had a lot of upcoming retro titles there, like G.I. Joe Wrath of Cobra, which just launched on September 26th. I got to play it and I thought it was a lot of fun, like an old school 90s beat 'em up. I always love those kind of games, but they do have a free demo available on Steam, so I would go check it out. In the retro area, they also had Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind. Now, before you say anything, this was the best game of the entire show, no question. You see that guy sitting down there explaining the game? That is one of the main developers, and he was so cool, so passionate, so knowledgeable about Power Rangers lore. He even did the voice acting for the demo at PAX. I wish I would have asked his name because he was by far the coolest dude at the entire show. And I got to play this with a 4-person co-op team, and it was so much fun. Like, I expected to think it was kind of cool, but between the surprisingly insane visuals, responsive gameplay, the fun of playing with other people, and this guy's passion for the game, I was sold. Like, if you get one game from this show, get this one. I promise you won't regret it. Like I said, they also had a bunch of shops set up throughout the show, and it was cool to see the celebration of gamer culture. Like, there's no question that gaming has gone mainstream, and there's good parts and bad parts to that. But I remember not that long ago when gaming was kind of underground, and you were seen as being weird for loving video games, and it was so cool to see gaming celebrated like it was here. Nintendo also had a separate booth apart from just Pokemon, showcasing the upcoming Zelda game, and the art design was unique as it almost always is with Zelda games. It was almost like a Funko Pop kind of art style, and while I wasn't going to wait in the absolutely insane lines to play it, I did get a chance to watch a few minutes of gameplay and it looked really good. Nintendo is known for making great games, and I expect nothing different from this one. Yeah, that was the line for Nintendo, and it stretched further than you can even see here. Hard pass from me. The game I was most looking forward to playing was Stalker 2, and it was awesome to finally get my hands on it. The game ran smooth as hell, and the gameplay was really deep and fun. They were running the game on 4080s, and it looked amazing. The devs were super cool too. Like, it was crazy to actually talk to the developers of some of these games and see the passion they have. It was satisfying to see that they actually cared. The Stalker devs were also really helpful, and their excitement was cool to see. Like, when I played it, they showed me a couple hidden areas and kind of helped me along because I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't get it on camera, but I actually pre-ordered the game on Steam from my phone in front of them on the last day of the show, and they were so happy. They were cheering. It was a cool moment. The new Final Fantasy Online expansion was there as well, and they had demos set up where you could fight one of the new bosses. I'm not a huge Final Fantasy fan, but again, it was cool to see such a long-running franchise represented. Dead Rising Remastered was there, but I personally played it when it came out on Xbox 360, and it was awesome, but it also wasn't a game that I need to revisit. But having said that, it is still a great game, and if you haven't ever played it, you need to go out and experience it for yourself. Five Nights at Freddy's was there, and they also had a pretty big booth with like a birthday party setup that I think they actually served pizza at on day 3, and they also had a Five Nights at Freddy's VR experience. Because I was IRL streaming, I didn't want to put my chat through a dark room where they can't see anything that's going on because you have to wear a VR headset, and the lines were also ridiculously long, but it was one of the most popular booths. A lot of the major PC brands and PC monitor brands were there. Alienware, MSI, LG, and MSI actually had a pretty cool setup showcasing the history of graphic cards, and they also had an insane ultra-wide 1440p screen playing Black Myth Wukong. Like, I really had no idea that 1440p could look so good. It was beautiful. There was also plenty of gaming artwork for sale for all the anime and art fans out there. It seemed like every subculture within the main gaming culture as a whole was represented. That was dope. And I can't get over how cool it was to see my biggest passion celebrated so openly. There was also another retro game, reminded me kind of Super Ghouls and Ghosts, called Volgar 2. It's like a punishing platformer, and it was cool to see that retro style continuing to be innovated on. Classics never go out of style. There were also a ton of small indie titles there, with like small little booths that you might miss if you weren't looking carefully, but some of these games were some of the coolest, most unique stuff at the entire show. I think there were even some student devs there, and like I said, these games were cool. And when you get to that ground level of game development where 20 grand is a large enough budget to create a great game, it's amazing to see. Perfect example of this is a game that was recommended to me by one of my chatters during my stream. Fusion Fighters by Dracona Studios. These are the devs right here. My chatter told me to stop by. I could barely find the booth, but I sat down and actually got to play against one of the devs. It's like a mashup of Super Smash Brothers, but where you get to create your own character and customize their abilities to fit your play style. It was a ton of fun and one of my personal coolest moments of the show. Razer was there showing off their latest controller, the Wolverine V3 Pro, and it is a badass controller. It's probably the best controller on the market, except for Carbon Custom Pro controllers, today's video sponsor.
If you want the best controller I've ever used, Carbon Custom Pro controllers are your answer. With both Xbox and PlayStation controller options, Carbon lets you personalize your controller to match your unique style. With Hall effect thumbsticks to eliminate stick drift, durable mechanical switches, speedy hair triggers, and up to 4 ergonomically placed back buttons, you're all set for comfort and precision. Plus, opt to remove rumble motors for that extra competitive advantage. Click the link in the description and experience the precision of Carbon Custom Pro controllers.
Laura Croft was there doing her thing, and she was there all 4 days, so I couldn't move on without showing you guys. She looks pretty lore accurate to me. There was also a Tekken tournament, and I got a chance to watch a few rounds, and it was pretty good gameplay. I've never been on that level in fighting games, but the winner got 10 grand, so it was definitely pretty high stakes and fun to watch. But that is not the only thing at PAX West. There is a whole separate building for the console games, games and tabletop games, and it was insanely cool. Way more than I expected, considering I'm not a big tabletop guy. On the way over there are a bunch of food shops, but in my opinion, they're all overpriced. And if I'm in Seattle, I'm not going to eat from a food truck. I had great barbecue, great pizza, and great sushi while I was there, but I didn't get any food at PAX. So the building for the tabletop was huge, like it was massive. Tons of people playing different games, D&D quests, it was all there. Just like on the game demo side, there were a lot of shops set up, except these shops were obviously catered more to the tabletop audience. This shop had a bunch of cool figurines, and they also had this dragon hologram thing that didn't show up on camera, but I assure you it was awesome. All kinds of shops were set up, selling super high quality dice, little contraptions that would roll your dice for you, mats for the dice, as well as a bunch of new tabletop games. Everything from Pirates of Maracaibo to Sonic the Hedgehog, there were games for everybody there. I really had no idea the tabletop community was so active, and it was cool to have my perceptions changed and my knowledge of the gaming world expanded. So this was the most mind-blowing thing for me at the entire show. I knew Magic cards was a thing, and I even collected a few when I was much younger, but I never actually played the game. I wasn't surprised to see Magic card vendors at the show, but this did surprise me. I want you to look closely here. That is an $18,000 Magic card, right next to a $15,000 Magic card. I asked a friend of mine after the show about this, and he knew what it was right away, without me describing it or even showing him the footage. This card is called the Black Lotus, a card that was debuted when the game launched in 1993. The card is so OP that it isn't even allowed in most competitions. I don't know much more about it than that, but yeah, this guy probably had over 100 grand in that one case. That's crazy to me. This was another cool space in the tabletop area where you could not only look at, but check out, like at a library, different games to play. They even had some original first edition Dungeons & Dragons games in this collection, and they were also so nice and welcoming. Like I said, it's not my thing, but all the nice people and cool stuff did make me consider picking it up sometime. There was also a console area where they had all kinds of older console games, from OG Atari games to Duck Hunt for the original Nintendo, which I did get a chance to play, and it was still fun after all these years. They also had a little Super Smash Brothers thing going on. I wasn't sure if it was a tournament, but it reminded me of the old underground GameCube tournaments for SSB. There was also a little area for streamers too. A few people were doing streams for charity, and that was dope. It was cool seeing other streamers do their thing. Even if I was just walking by, only a fellow streamer and content creator knows what it's like. So that was another cool moment in a show filled with quite a few memorable moments. There were tons of people playing all these console games, and they even had another area where you could check out games like at a library and then take them to a console, put the cartridge in the system, and power it on. I didn't get a chance to do that, but I also lived through that era, so I didn't feel like I was missing that much. So that was PAX West 2024. I hope you enjoyed the video. I tried to break down as much as possible so you could really get the flavor for the show. Make sure to let me know what you think, if you like this kind of content and want to see more of it, and also any questions you have, I'll do my best to answer them for you. Finally, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.